Yeah, Daniel, I'd like to find out from you. I mean, you say the reasons that were given for his rejection may have been addressed, if I heard you correctly. But then I think there was a committee that was set up to look into this matter headed by the AGF. Do we know if the report has been published before his name was represented to the Senate for reconsideration?
Well, not that I know of. Personally, I do not know whether the report has been published, and if it has, definitely the media would have carried it and we all would have been able to see it. But you see, there is a logical conclusion you can always give when you put two and two together. You can draw an inference. And this is, I am drawing an inference because if the president resubmitted his name again for consideration for confirmation as substantive chair, then you can draw that inference that it's possible that the report of the Attorney General of the Federation must have cleared him. Otherwise, the Attorney General cannot further confirm his indictment and the president will proceed to present his name to the National Assembly. So it's a logical conclusion drawn from the action of the president. But to my knowledge, there is no official report, published to the media.
One just wonders if that was all a charade, setting up the committee in the first place. If one in the caliber of the AGF will head it, are you then suggesting that, well, it doesn't really matter because, I mean, if you draw inference and conclude from there, you say it's logical, but to many people, it doesn't sound quite logical because, I mean, if the DSS comes up with a report, is it frivolous? Isn't it worth consideration? Because, I mean, this is a body that when they come up with certain reports, several politicians who were trying to vie for political offices have been dropped based on the report from the DSS. Why is this one any different?
Yes, I can argue as to the reason I believe that this one is different because of the following reasons. Number one, when that letter was sent to the National Assembly, it was also reported that a similar letter was sent to the presidency that cleared him. So you have contradiction there. And where you have contradiction, it is only necessary and wise that you further investigate the matter. It was also reported that after that letter was sent by DSS to the National Assembly, which in essence indicted him, that there was another letter sent by DSS again that asked the National Assembly to give him a second chance. So we also need to find out why the second letter, why did they send the second letter? Could it be that they did not have confidence in the first letter they sent in the first place? So all of these things are grounds, and I believe that informed the president's decision to forward that demand for the Office of the Attorney General to investigate. Now, when you say that somebody can also have a conclusion, a logical conclusion to the contrary, then my question will be, is it possible that the Attorney General haven't looked at the circumstances of the case, haven't queried Magu and read his response, and came to the conclusion that Magu had a case to answer? And Attorney General forwarded his report to the president. My question will be, can the president, who believes in the rule of law, who believes that things should be done rightly, who believes that procedure must be followed, can this president, having been given information to the fact that Magu was indicted, proceed again to submit Magu's name? I don't think so. I think that if the Attorney General confirmed the allegation against Magu, the president will have no option but to drop him and pick someone else. There are many Nigerians who are capable of doing the work far and even better than Magu. But I believe that for the president to resubmit his name, which of course we do not have to even prejudice, to be prejudicial to the proceedings that is coming up later today by the National Assembly, because we will get to know today the details of the report of the Attorney General. We'll get to know today the details of the reasons why the president resubmitted his name, because it cannot just be a letter in limbo. It has to state that the issue for which he was indicted has now been cleared and there is no allegation against him. So later today we'll get to know why and some of these details surrounding his clearance. But I hold the opinion that for the president to go ahead and submit his name, then it goes without saying that probably the report of the Attorney General cleared him.
Well, Daniel, the thing is, I don't see how it is that the president, having resubmitted his name, the AGF will come up with a contrary report, because no matter what the report may have been before now, I don't see how the AGF in this country now is going to come up with a contrary report to that of the president. That now means to have a new Nigeria, because what that means, or the impression people now have, is the president is trying to force the hand of the Senate, and then everybody else, by resubmitting that name, because you have many who will argue, just as you say, he's not the only qualified person who can do this job. And then many who will also argue that, look, those cases which you mentioned that have been investigated, there's nothing that says that those cases, or we can't validly conclude that those cases will not be further investigated if another person comes on the saddle.
If I go by your argument, Chamberlain, then I will also make a conclusion that the president in the circumstance ought to have fired the Director General of DSS. Because if the president in the first place had had absolute interest in Magu, whether heaven falls down, then the act of the DSS must have stepped on the nerves or the toes of the president, and the president would have sacked him. I want to believe, until proven wrong, that this is what we are seeing playing out is the rule of law. What we are seeing playing out is the handing off of the president's hands from the affairs of the agencies of the government. For the Department of State Services to send a letter indicting an appointee of the president, then that means they are going against him. So if I go by your argument, then I will reach that conclusion that the president ought to have sacked that person. But I want to believe, and you may be right, and lots of Nigerians who have this kind of thinking might be also right in their way of thinking, that the Attorney General cannot go contrary to the wishes of the president. But the president's resubmission of the man's name to the National Assembly came after the report of the Attorney General. So if the Attorney General had indicted him and the president did not want, the president would have asked him, look at the report again and then give me a favorable report so I can forward it. So either way, we may not be privy to the communication between the Attorney General and the president, but the fact of the matter is that if the president wishes that Magu continue to act as the chairman, the president is within his right to submit the name of Magu. And let me appeal to Nigerians. Just like Section 308 of the Constitution, the effect of Section 308, if a sitting governor is embezzling the funds of the state, we all have to be patient. When he stepped down from the post of governorship, he will now face the law. Why don't we exercise patience, even if, and that's I'm saying even if because I don't think so, the allegation is established against Magu, and the president feels that Magu, in his view, is the only person that is capable of taking, and don't forget, I'm sorry to say that, the hallmark of the presidency of President Buhari is anti-corruption. Nigerians voted for him because Nigerians believe he was going to stop corruption and fight insecurity in the country. In other words, the signature hand of the president should be the success of anti-corruption war. And therefore, the president has to be careful to be sure that whoever is piloting the affairs of the EFCC has to be somebody he can trust, has to be somebody that will work, has to be somebody that will be efficient. And if in his view, Magu is the best person, doesn't he have the right in law?
Now, let's quickly take a look at some of the issues that you have raised now. You talked about, if the president was bent on, presenting, or if Magu's name was do or die for him, the chances are high that he should have fired the DSS chair. Right. Shouldn't there be some investigations carried out there as well? Because why should we get to security reports? Right.
I believe it. I believe that the press, well, that's my opinion, and I could be wrong. I believe that the press, if Magu was consequently cleared by the Attorney General, then the president will naturally not be happy with the report of the DSS in the first place. Because it will then mean that the president will need to investigate to know why the Department of State Services tried to indict Magu. Could it be that there is something fishing? Could it be that there is something to hide? Could it be that because of the interagency conflict, as it were, that we read from the pages of the newspaper when the DSS, performed that stingy operation on the judges, It was widely reported that the Attorney General, the chairman of EFCC stated that it was not within the purview of DSS to do that, that it was the responsibility of the EFCC. And even in America, you have that problem between the CIA and the FBI consistently. So there's no problem. Interagency conflict can continue to exist. But if DSS decided to indict Magu because of that interagency conflict, then I'm sure that the president will not be comfortable with that act of DSS. So
what do you think has reinformed? Because from the conversations that we're having, it doesn't seem, I mean, we were not quite sure if the Attorney General of the Federation has submitted the report of his investigation. What do you think has informed the president's resubmission of Magu's name to the Senate?
Simply, he was cleared. Now, this is
by the Attorney General's report?
By the Attorney General's report.
So you believe that the Attorney General's report is out?
I believe that the Attorney General's report is out. If the president resubmitted the name of Magu to the Senate for consideration, it goes without saying that that act preceded the report of the Attorney General. And it also goes without saying that that report of the Attorney General must have cleared him. It does not make sense for the Attorney General to confirm the indictment and for the president to send his name. It's a conflict. It will never send a good signal on the integrity of the president to go ahead and submit his name if the Attorney General has confirmed the indictment. And you see, that report of the Attorney General becomes a public document. So whether it comes out now or it will come out tomorrow, it will tell, posterity will tell on the integrity of the president. So I believe that that report must have cleared him before that name was sent to the Senate. And I expect the Senate to, without delay, confirm the Attorney General and confirm the EFCC chairman. If the Senate have reservation, my opinion is let him appear before the Senate, the floor. Let questions be put to him. Let questions regarding the allegation, whether the report clears him or not, they should put that question to him. He should be given the opportunity to explain. Fair hearing is lawful. I remember that the music that the president of the Senate and his principal officers were singing then was that they needed fair hearing. People have to hear their views. That people have been hearing the government side of the view or the code of conduct side of the view, they need to hear them. So it behoves of them to also hear him. Nigerians also need to hear how he responds to the allegation against him. So if he appears before them, they should be able to put the questions through to him and get him confirmed. I do not see any reason why Magu will be rejected if the allegation has been cleared.